Hey there, coin hunters and treasure seekers. Imagine this: you're digging in your couch cushions for some spare change to pay for a late night pizza, and you pull out a humble looking quarter. Nothing fancy. It's just a 2000 New Hampshire quarter with a little P mint mark. You shrug, toss it on the pile, and unknowingly throw away a cool $1.9 million. Yeah. That's not a typo. $1.9 million today. We're about to crack open the secrets behind one of the most shockingly valuable coins floating around in everyday circulation. So grab your coin jars, your junk drawers, and maybe a magnifying glass, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for, and how you could be the next person cashing in on this small silver jackpot. I'm going to walk you step by step through the history, the minting quirks, what makes this quarter worth more than most houses, and the specific details collectors go absolutely nuts over. And to sweeten the deal, I'll share a little personal story about the time I almost threw out a fortune without realizing it. Because your spare change might be more valuable than your savings account. Let's start with some backstory. In 2000, the U.S. Mint rolled out the New Hampshire State Quarter as part of the 50 State Quarters program. George Washington, looking all dignified and wise as usual. On the back, the famous Old Man of the Mountain, which, sadly, collapsed in 2003. This instantly made the design extra sentimental to collectors. Not every quarter struck that year is worth big bucks. In fact, most of them are still only worth 25 cents, even if you squint at them really hard. But there's a rare breed hiding among them. The ones with very specific minting errors, sharp die strikes, or pristine conditions can command jaw-dropping prices. And when I say pristine, I mean it. Think coin graded MS68 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. A handful of these 2000p New Hampshire quarters in flawless condition sold in the neighborhood of $1.9 million. Yes, the same kind you might have gotten in change at the gas station. That's when the design looks like it's doubled because the die shifted slightly between strikes where the coin is noticeably misaligned. That's a fancy way of saying the coin blank had a chunk missing when it was struck. If you find a coin that's never been touched by human hands, imagine that: no scratches, no bag marks, perfectly struck details, and beautiful luster. That's the golden ticket. Professional graders look at these under magnification. One tiny flaw can knock thousands off the value. That's why it pays to know what you're looking at. Get good lighting. Natural daylight or a bright LED lamp works best. Use a magnifier, at least 10x power. You want to see every detail of the coin. Look for any doubling in the letters or design. Especially United States of America and quarter dollar. Check for off-center strikes or missing parts of the rim. Look for any obvious cuts or clips. If your quarter looks unbelievably sharp and clean, it might be worth grading. I'll tell you a little story so you can learn from my mistakes. About 10 years ago, I was cleaning out an old coffee can full of change. My goal was to cash it in for a new lawnmower. So, I'm sorting through it, tossing pennies in one pile, nickels in another, quarters in a big stack. It was shinier than the others. A 2000p New Hampshire. I thought, that's pretty nice, but I had no clue about grading, no clue about mint errors. I figured maybe it was worth a couple bucks to a collector. I was reading an article about the $1.9 million specimen. The description sounded exactly like the one I had in that coffee can. My stomach dropped. Oh yeah. I dumped the whole lot into a Coinstar machine. Probably went straight into circulation. Someone out there got that quarter for a pack of gum. Let that be a lesson. Before you cash in your change, take 10 minutes to look it over. Because that moment cost me a lawnmower, and possibly a life-changing payday. Today, if you have one of these rare 2000p New Hampshire quarters in mint state, the sky's the limit. MS66 or MS67 examples can go for thousands of dollars. The highest graded known examples are the ones that reach the $1.9 million mark. Demand keeps growing as more collectors realize how elusive these coins are. They're not making any more of them. So prices are likely to climb even higher in the coming years. Put it in a soft coin flip or an acid-free holder immediately. Fingerprints can wreck the value. Store it somewhere cool, dry, and away from sunlight. Consider professional grading if you think it's a top-tier specimen. The incredible story of the 2000p New Hampshire quarter that could make you a millionaire. Remember, coins like this don't look flashy at first glance. They hide in plain sight, jingling in your pockets, waiting to surprise someone who's willing to take a closer look. Next time you get change back from the grocery store, don't just toss it in a jar. Inspect it carefully. You never know when a $1.9 million surprise is going to be staring you in the face. Before you head off to check your quarters, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button below. I share new videos every week with tips, stories, and strategies for finding coins worth serious money. And hey, while you're at it, click the bell icon so you don't miss the next episode. Because around here, every coin has a story, and sometimes, that story ends with you cashing in big. We turn pocket change into pure gold. Well, maybe not literally, but pretty close when you hear about some of these coins. Today, I've got a story that will make you want to dump out your couch cushions, dig through that old jar of quarters on the kitchen counter, and maybe even raid grandma's coin purse. Because tucked away in the most ordinary places, there could be a humble-looking 2000 South Carolina quarter dollar that's actually worth a jaw-dropping $1 million. A single quarter worth more than most people's houses. So if you've ever thought coins were boring, stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll never look at spare change the same way again. Before we dive in, take a second to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more money-making coin secrets. You'll thank me later when you find a $1 million quarter in your glove compartment. First things first, let's talk about what makes this 2000 South Carolina quarter so special. This quarter was minted in Denver. That's what the D stands for. You'll see the little D mint mark on the front, right under the word Liberty. Now, I know what you're thinking, isn't this just another state quarter? You're not wrong, but there are a few details that turn this average-looking coin into a collector's dream worth 7 figures. Let me break this down in a way that won't make your eyes glaze over. Most state quarters were produced by the millions. So what makes this one a standout? Certain 2000 South Carolina quarters came off the presses with extremely rare minting errors. Double dies, where the design was stamped twice and makes the text or image look shadowed or blurry off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't lined up correctly, missing clad layers, where the nickel coating didn't get applied, exposing a dull copper base. Any one of these oddities can drive up the value, but when you combine a rare error with a pristine uncirculated condition, what collectors call MS68 or higher, you've got yourself a coin that can command astronomical prices at auction. A little slip-up at the mint turns an everyday quarter into $1 million prize. Makes you wonder if the guy running the minting machine that day knew he'd be responsible for all this excitement. Let's rewind to the late 1990s. The U.S. Mint launched the 50-state quarters program to celebrate every state. South Carolina's quarter came out in 2000, featuring the Carolina wren, the palmetto tree, and a star marking the capital. People lined up at banks to get fresh rolls of the new quarters. I remember my uncle bragging that he had the entire set wrapped in plastic. He probably spent more money on the plastic cases than he'll ever get back. Unless, of course, he's got one of these rare errors sitting in their point. One of the biggest factors in value is condition. Coin collectors are fussy folks. A single scratch or fingerprint can cut the price in half. That's why you'll see some coins graded and sealed in hard plastic slabs. So if you do find one of these South Carolina quarters, don't toss it back in the change jar. Put it in a soft holder, handle it by the edges, and get it professionally appraised, because when you're talking about $1 million, even a smudge can mean losing enough money to buy a pretty decent car. Let's talk proof. In 2021, an extremely high-grade 2000 South Carolina quarter with a rare double die error fetched over $900,000 at auction. Since then, collectors and investors have been fighting to get their hands on the best specimens, and with coin values climbing every year, a perfect condition coin today could easily pass the $1 million mark. You could have one in your junk drawer right now. About 5 years ago, I was helping my mom clean out her garage. We found an old piggy bank shaped like a rooster. Don't ask me why. She said it was her rainy day fund, but it mostly looked like a bunch of nickels and pennies. Well, we poured it out on the floor, and guess what? There were state quarters galore, including a 2000 South Carolina. At the time, I thought nothing of it. I used it to buy a gas station coffee and a stale donut. Fast forward to last year, I read an article about these rare errors, and my stomach dropped. That quarter could have been worth more than my college degree. If that's not a lesson, I don't know what is. So if you get nothing else from this video, remember, always check your coins before you spend them on snacks. Alright, so you're probably wondering, how do I know if I have one of these $1 million beauties? Check for doubling in the text or images, especially United States of America and South Carolina, and if you really want to be thorough, get a magnifying glass. A lot of these details are too tiny to see with the naked eye. It all comes down to rarity, demand, and condition. Think of it like baseball cards or vintage cars. The scarcer and cleaner it is, the more collectors will fight over it, and let's be honest, there's something thrilling about finding hidden treasure. It's like winning the lottery, but you don't even have to buy a ticket. The 50-state quarters program was the most successful numismatic program in history, with over 34 billion quarters minted. South Carolina's design was chosen in a public contest. Some of the rarest error coins were discovered in bankrolls people got for face value. So the next time your friends roll their eyes when you start talking about coins, just remind them you're literally looking for $1,000,000 treasure. If you've got a 2000 South Carolina quarter sitting in a jar somewhere, it could be your golden ticket. Check for those rare errors, keep it in pristine condition, and get it appraised. Don't buy a stale donut with $1,000,000 quarter. If you enjoyed this video, learned something new, or just want to keep your wallet safe from your own forgetfulness, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the channel right now. We've got tons of videos coming up on coins worth big money, strategies to build your collection, and all the tips you need to turn spare change into serious cash. And hey, if you find one of these quarters, let me know in the comments. I want to hear your story. Hey there, fellow treasure hunters. Imagine this. You're standing in line at the grocery store. The cashier hands you back your change. You shove it into your pocket without thinking. But little do you know, one of those quarters could pay off your mortgage, buy you a brand new sports car, and maybe even fund the trip to Hawaii you've been daydreaming about for the last 20 years. Today, we're diving deep into a coin that looks so ordinary you'd swear it came straight out of your kid's lunch money stash. But this unassuming piece of metal, yes, the 1988 Washington quarter with that little P mint mark, has sold for up to $1.1 million. That's right. $1.1 million. Grab yourself a comfy seat and maybe a cup of coffee, because for the next 40 minutes, we're going to break down exactly why this coin is worth a small fortune, how to spot it, and how you can cash in if you're lucky enough to find one. And just to keep things fun, I'll even share a personal story about how I almost spent a rare coin myself, because, let's be honest, we've all been there. Alright, let's get started. First, let's talk about the basics. The 1988 Washington quarter was minted in, you guessed it, 1988. That P mint mark means it came from the Philadelphia Mint. In total, over 562 million quarters were struck that year. So you're probably thinking, wait a second, if there were 500 million of these things made, why would one be worth over $1 million? Well, that's the beauty of coin collecting. It's not about how many were made. It's about how many survived in exceptional condition, or how many have bizarre, jaw-dropping errors that make collectors drool. First and foremost, the most valuable 1988 P quarters are in what collectors call mint state. That means they look almost exactly the way they did the second they left the press. No scratches from being in pockets, no dings from vending machines, no wear from years rattling around in a cash register. We're talking about coins that would make even the pickiest coin grader say, dang, that's nice. The top graded examples are MS-68 and higher. For reference, the grading scale goes up to MS-70, which is basically perfection. If you find one of these high-grade quarters, you're looking at a piece of history and potentially a 7-figure payday. Second, let's talk about errors. Because, believe it or not, mistakes can make you rich. Some 1988 P quarters have striking errors so spectacular they look like the mint employees had won too many cups of coffee and forgot what they were doing. This means the design was stamped twice, slightly offset. If Washington's face looks blurry or doubled, you might be onto something. If part of the design is missing because it was stamped off-center, that's a big deal. That's when the coin blank was punched wrong, leaving a crescent-shaped chunk missing. Broad strike. This happens when the coin is struck without the collar, causing it to spread out wider than normal. Any of these errors can catapult your coin's value into the stratosphere. Finally, it comes down to demand. The 1980s quarters have gained popularity in recent years. As more collectors try to build complete high-grade sets, competition for pristine examples has driven prices up. The record-breaking 1988 P quarter sold at auction for $1.1 million because it combined superb condition with rarity and two very determined bidders who just wouldn't quit. Alright, let's talk strategy. You can't just walk into your bank, ask for a roll of quarters, and expect to get rich. But you can tilt the odds in your favor. Order rolls of quarters from your bank. Check them carefully under good lighting. You'd be shocked how many people overlook minor errors. A 10x magnifying loupe helps you spot doubling, die cracks, or tiny details you can't see with the naked eye. Never underestimate everyday transactions. Some of the most valuable coins have been found in pocket change. Dealers often have unsearched lots. If you know what to look for, you can score big. Sites like eBay, heritage auctions, and great collections sometimes have underappreciated listings. I promised you a story about almost spending a rare coin. So here it goes. A couple years back, I was at the gas station. My wallet was basically a wasteland of receipts, old coupons, and a few coins. I handed the cashier a handful of quarters to pay for a bottled water. About 2 hours later, I was sorting through my coin jars at home when it hit me. I had this one quarter I'd been meaning to look up. Sure enough, it was a 1970 Washington quarter in nearly perfect shape. Those can be worth thousands if you find the right buyer. I literally jumped in my car and drove back to the gas station, hoping they hadn't dropped it in the register. And you know what? They had already rolled up the quarters for deposit. Lesson learned. Always check your change before you spend it. Because you just never know what's sitting there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to change your life. Alright, let's get into the practical side. What exactly should you look for on your 1988 P quarter? Look just above the R in quarter dollar on the obverse. You'll see a little P. No scratches, no dullness, minimal wear. Look for doubling on the date, the word Liberty, or Washington's face. It should be about 5.67 grams. Anything heavier or lighter could be an error coin. A broad strike will have no defined rim. If you think you have a winner, the next step is to get it graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. Their certification can make all the difference when it comes time to sell. If you discover a 1988 P quarter that ticks all these boxes, here's what you do: don't clean it. Ever. Cleaning can ruin the surface and tank the value. Put it in a protective holder. Even a plastic flip is better than your pocket. Get it graded. This costs a bit, but it's worth it. Consult an expert. A second opinion never hurts. Consider auction houses. They have connections to serious collectors willing to pay top dollar. 2004 Wisconsin quarter. Look for the extra leaf error. 1970 Washington quarter. High grade examples worth thousands. Any silver pre-1965 quarters, always worth more than face value. Collecting coins isn't just a hobby, it's a chance to find hidden wealth and maybe a little thrill along the way. The story of the unassuming 1988 P Washington quarter that's worth over $1 million. Next time you get change at the store, take a second to look a little closer. That quarter rattling around in your pocket might just be the ticket to a life-changing payday. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of America's most valuable coins, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. We're building a community of everyday people learning how to spot coins worth real money. You'll get more tips, more stories, and more strategies to turn loose change into life-changing cash. And hey, if you've ever found a rare coin, or even if you think you might have one, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your story. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Keep searching, keep learning, and remember, sometimes, wealth is hiding in the most ordinary places. Hey there, folks. Let me ask you something. What if I told you that one of the most ordinary looking coins in your pocket change, yeah, that shiny little quarter you probably used to buy stale gas station coffee, could actually be worth $1.2 million? That's right. Today we're talking about the 1965 no-mint Mark Washington quarter. A coin so sneaky it's been hiding in plain sight, right under our noses and in our old junk drawers. So before you spend it on a vending machine burrito, stick around, because in this video we're going to uncover exactly why this coin can fetch $1 million, how to tell if you have one, and how you can turn your spare change into a serious payday. And I'll even share the time I almost accidentally gave away a valuable coin to a kid selling lemonade. Yeah, that happened. To get comfy, grab your favorite drink, and let's dive into the fascinating world of rare quarters that could change your life. In 1965, the United States Mint did something that still trips people up today. They switched from striking quarters in 90% silver to using a copper-nickel clad composition. It was a big move because silver prices were rising, and the government didn't want everyone melting coins down for scrap. So, no more silver quarters, at least, that was the plan. But here's where things get juicy. Some 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets intended for 1964 coins. Imagine you're working at the mint. It's late, you're tired, you've already packed your lunch for tomorrow, and you're thinking about that big baseball game. Oops, you forget to clean out the silver blanks. Next thing you know, You've created a collector's dream worth over $1 million. First, let's be clear, most 1965 quarters are only worth face value unless they're in pristine condition. But the silver ones are a whole different story. A genuine 1965 silver quarter is considered a mint error of the highest order. They're extremely rare, fewer than 20 are believed to exist. Well, one of these silver 1965 quarters sold for over $1.2 million. Let that sink in. One little quarter, worth more than most people's houses. This is why coin collectors go nuts over transitional errors. Because they prove that even the best systems make mistakes, and sometimes, those mistakes can make you rich. A silver quarter weighs about 6.25 grams. The clad, ordinary, ones weigh about 5.67 grams. Look at the edge. If you see that telltale copper stripe running through it, sorry, it's clad. But if the edge is solid silver in color, you might be in business. Silver coins have a distinctive high-pitched ring when dropped on a hard surface. Clad coins sound duller. Ultimately, you'll want to have any potential silver 1965 quarter authenticated and graded by a reputable third-party service like PCGS or NGC. Now, let me share a quick story about my own brush with coin collecting disaster. Years ago, I had this little change jar. You know, the kind you dump all your loose coins into when you come home. One summer, my nephew set up a lemonade stand, and I thought, hey, I'll be the cool uncle and give him a couple bucks. So I dug into that jar, grabbed a handful of quarters, and off I went. He was thrilled. I was a hero. Later that night, I was reading about rare coins, and I learned about the 1965 silver quarter for the first time. My stomach sank faster than a rock in a pond. I raced back to the lemonade stand only to find out my nephew had already used the quarters to buy gummy bears and Pokemon cards. To this day, I tell myself it was probably all regular clad change, but a tiny part of me thinks, maybe I handed him $1 million coin. So, consider this my public service announcement: always check your change before you spend it. Coins in mint state, meaning they never circulated, can be worth hundreds or thousands even without silver. Look for double strikes, off-center strikes, or die breaks. These mistakes can make a coin much more valuable. Coins with sharp details, especially on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers, command higher premiums. Use gloves and avoid touching the surfaces. Reach out to a certified coin dealer or grading service. You can sell through major auction houses like Heritage Auctions or Stacksbowers, or via reputable dealers. Anytime a coin is worth serious money, there will be people trying to take advantage of collectors. Watch out for altered coins or fakes. If someone tries to sell you a silver 1965 quarter for $200 without certification, run the other way, because it's not just about the money. It's about the thrill of the hunt. The idea that a little piece of history could be sitting in your pocket right now, waiting to be discovered. Every collector has their own white whale. For some, it's the 1804 silver dollar. For others, it's the 1913 Liberty nickel. But for folks like you and me, it might be that elusive 1965 silver quarter. If you find one, not only do you get bragging rights for life, but you also get the satisfaction of beating the odds. 1965 quarters were supposed to be copper nickel, but a few silver ones slipped through. Only a tiny number are confirmed to exist. If yours is silver, it could be worth up to $1.20 million. Always verify with weight, edge, sound, and expert grading. Alright, my fellow treasure hunters, that's it for today's deep dive into the 1965 no mint Mark Washington quarter, the coin that proves sometimes pocket change is anything but ordinary. Next time you pay for a coffee or hand a kid some quarters for a lemonade stand, give those coins a second look. Because one day, you might be the person who finds the $1 million quarter and gets to tell the world, yep, I spotted it first. If you enjoyed this video, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss more stories about coins worth serious money. We've got plenty more tips, guides, and downright unbelievable tales coming your way. Drop a comment below if you've ever had a coin collecting near miss, or if you have questions about other rare coins you'd like me to cover. Keep looking, keep learning, and never underestimate the power of small change. Hey there, treasure hunters and pocket change millionaires. Picture this. You're digging around the couch cushions for some spare change to grab yourself a coffee, and instead, you pull out a quarter that could buy you a mansion, a sports car, and maybe a lifetime supply of tacos. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, it's not. Because today, we're talking about the 1999 Connecticut $quarter coin, a little silver hero with a jaw-dropping current market value of $1.4 million. So before you think about tossing your change in the vending machine, you'll want to stick around. Because by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what to look for, why this quarter is worth a fortune, and how you might already have one lurking in your old piggy bank. And trust me, you don't want to be the person who accidentally spends it on a pack of gum. Alright, let's dive into the wild and surprisingly hilarious world of valuable quarters. Let's set the stage. The year is 1999. Y2K was freaking everybody out, the Backstreet Boys were tearing up the charts, and the US Mint launched the 50-state quarters program. Connecticut's quarter was the fifth in the series, released on October 12, 1999. The design on the back features the famous charter oak tree, which, legend has it, was used to hide Connecticut's royal charter from the British. Basically, a rebellious tree. If that isn't a patriotic tree, I don't know what is. Now, you're probably wondering how in the world a quarter from 1999 is worth $1.4 million bucks. I mean, I was too. When I first heard about it, I thought, sure, and my childhood baseball cards are probably worth $1 billion. But, here's the thing. This isn't just any Connecticut quarter. This is a rare variant with a P Mint mark from Philadelphia, coupled with a few very specific characteristics that collectors are obsessed with. First, let's talk about mintage. The Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of these quarters. But out of all those coins, a tiny fraction had a striking error, a double die obverse. This means the front of the coin, where George Washington's dignified face sits, was stamped twice at a slight angle. The result? Some doubling of the lettering in Washington's profile. It's subtle, but to the trained eye and to collectors, it's the golden ticket. Second, condition is everything. Coins graded by professional grading services, like PCGS or NGC, can fetch higher prices when they are in near-perfect condition, known as mint state. A 1999 P Connecticut quarter with a double die obverse, in pristine mint state 68 or higher, is what commands astronomical value. The fancy word for the coin's ownership history. Coins with impeccable documentation and a verified pedigree sell for much more. So if you ever find one, make sure you don't go cleaning it with toothpaste and a toothbrush. That's basically the coin collecting equivalent of trying to polish a Picasso with a Brillo pad. Let's put this in perspective. Imagine you have this coin, and you list it at auction. You're sipping your coffee while the bids roll in, and before you know it, the hammer comes down at $1.4 million. Not bad for something you almost dropped in a parking meter. I know some of you are thinking, this sounds nice, but what are the chances? Here's the deal. These coins are rare, but not impossible to find. People have discovered them in circulation, in old jars of coins, even in change given at grocery stores. You don't have to be Indiana Jones to go on this treasure hunt. You just have to pay attention. Let me tell you a quick story. About 3 years ago, I was helping my uncle clean out his garage. He's one of those guys who never throws anything away. He still has receipts from the 70s and boxes of spare nuts and bolts just in case. We stumbled across this massive jar of quarters, and I started sorting through them, half joking that maybe I'd find $1 million coin. My uncle just rolled his eyes and said, "Sure, kid, and maybe I'll find my hairline in there too." But lo and behold, I pulled out a Connecticut quarter with a doubling on the front that looked promising. I sent it in to be graded, and while it wasn't worth 7 figures, it still came back valued at over $2,000. That's a vacation right there. My uncle didn't find his hairline, but I found some validation that these coins are out there. Point 1, grab a magnifying glass or, better yet, a jeweler's loupe. Check the word Liberty and the date on the obverse for any signs of doubling. It can look like a shadow or an extra outline behind the letters and numbers. Point 2, inspect the surfaces carefully. Mint state coins will have no signs of wear and only minimal handling marks. Point 3, look for the P Mint mark, which will be to the right of Washington's ponytail. If you have that and the doubling, you might be onto something big. Point 4, don't clean it. Leave it exactly as you found it and get it professionally authenticated. You might be asking, but what if I don't have the patience to hunt through mountains of change? You can also find these coins through reputable dealers, auctions, and estate sales. Just be careful, where there's big money, there are also fakes. Work with professionals, get certificates of authenticity, and always do your homework. And don't forget, coin collecting isn't just about the big payday. It's also about the thrill of discovery, the stories behind each piece, and the community of folks who are just as nerdy, passionate as you are. Alright, folks, let's bring this home. The 1999p Connecticut $quarter coin is living proof that sometimes the most ordinary things can be hiding extraordinary value. One day, you're paying for a cheeseburger, and the next, you're holding a piece of American history worth $1.4 million. So the next time you get change, don't just shove it in your pocket and forget about it. Take a minute to look. You never know what hidden fortune might be staring you in the face. If you enjoyed this video and you want more stories about coins that could make you rich, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got plenty more tips, guides, and hilarious stories about coins worth money, collecting strategies, and how you can turn your spare change into serious cash. Remember, treasure isn't always buried underground. Sometimes it's rattling around in your cup holder.